Hello and welcome to this continuing first look exploring section looking at Doctor Faustus by Christopher Marlowe and friends. The B text, we've already done a first look and a second look of the A text. We are now returning to the source to look at the B text, the later printing from 1616 onwards, which is quite significantly different to the A text produced 12 years earlier. So, and looking at the difference and things we like and things we don't, and just, because we started a little thing. Do we prefer the A text? Do we prefer the B text? Actually, one of the things to say, you can use whichever bits you like. You can smoosh them together. The world won't collapse if you do that. So, you don't feel compelled. You may be compelled by lots of things because, there are demons, but the power of Mephistophilis compels you. So, reading today, as we go from Act 3, Scene 3 to the end of the play, reading Vintner, Frederick, Wagner, Hostess, and Bad Angel is...
Alan in Suffolk.
Reading Robin, Benvolio, First Scholar, and Chorus is...
Lois in London.
Reading Mephistophilis and Carter is...
Lynn in the northwestern United States.
Reading Dick, Emperor, First Soldier, Duchess, Old Man, Belzebub, and Third Scholar is...
Sarah in The Hague.
Reading Doctor Faustus is...
Samantha, near Guildford, Surrey.
And reading Martino, Second Soldier, Horse Courser, Second Scholar, Lucifer, Good Angel is hopefully able to make it to the camera. Yes!
Hi, I'm here. I'm sort of in the middle of things, so I'm here. I'm Eric. I am many characters at the same time. Which seems to fit with what I'm doing today generally, so I will be back.
Yes, and I don't think you're immediately needed, so fingers crossed. And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading Duke and Servant or anyone else who needs filling in. If the internet gods are cruel, because they can be cruel. Anyway, we're starting with Act 3, Scene 3, and we are continuing the subplot with Robin and Dick, who have stolen a book. Act 3, Scene 3, as it is listed. Again, all of Act and scene divisions are later editions. Enter Robin and Dick with a cup.
Sirrah Robin, we were best look that your devil can answer the stealing of this same cup, for the vintner's boy follows us at the hard heels.
'Tis no matter. Let him come. And he follow us, I'll so conjure him as he was never conjured in his life, I warrant him. Let me see the cup.
Here 'tis. Yonder he comes. Now, Robin, now or never, show thy cunning.
Enter Vintner.
What are you here? Glad I found you. You're a couple of fine companions. Pray, where's the cup you stole from the tavern?
How we steal a cup? Take heed what you say. We look not like cup stealers, I can tell you.
Never deny it, but know you have it. I'll search you.
Search me, aye, and spare not. Hold the cup, Dick. Come, search me.
And the Vintner searches him.
Come on, Sirrah. Let me search you now.
Aye, do. Hold the cup, Robin. I fear not your... Hold the cup, Robin. I fear not your searching. We scorn to steal your cups, I can tell you.
And Vintner searches him.
Never outface me for the matter. For sure, the cup is between you two.
Nay, there you lie. 'Tis beyond us both.
A plague take you. Thought 'twas your knavery to take it away. Come, give it me again.
Aye, much. When? Can you tell? Dick, make me a circle and stand close at my back and stir not for your life. Vintner, you shall have your cup anon. Say nothing, Dick. Oh, per se, Demogorgon, Belcher, and Mephistophilis.
Enter Mephistophilis.
What?
You enter and everything.
The lousy charm. This, come on.
The right of Ashkenty is not working very well today.
Never does on a Thursday.
You princely legions of infernal rule, how am I vexed by these villains' charms? From Constantinople have they brought me now, only for pleasure of these damned slaves.
Exit Vintner at probably a rush.
Our lady, sir, you've had a shrewd journey of it. Will it please you to take a shoulder of mutton to supper and a tester in your purse and go back again?
I pray you heartily, sir, for we called you but in jest, I promise you.
To purge the rashness of this cursed deed, first be thou turned to this ugly shape, for apish deeds transformed to an ape.
Oh, brave, an ape! I pray, sir, let me have the carrying him about to show some tricks.
And so thou shalt. Be thou transformed to a dog, and carry him upon thy back. Away, be gone.
Ah, dog, that's excellent. Let the maids look well to their porridge pots, for I'll into the kitchen presently. Come, Dick, come.
And exeunt Robin and Dick.
Now with the flames of ever-burning fire, I'll wing myself, and forthwith fly amain unto my Faustus, to the great Turk's court.
And exit. So we have this short little scene. There are some slight differences between this and the A text. This scene's slightly longer, but the basic shape of it is quite good. There's a bit of palming of cups back and forth, which is nice little physical comedy business, which I quite like, and then they get turned into animals at the end. But I do just love the way that Mephistophilis turns up and going, "Have you any idea how far I've just travelled?"
What is it now?
I was in the middle of something.
I know, like you can like half imagine him like with a shower cap and a towel, you know.
Yeah, I
It's
think
like Lois.
Well, I saw him in one production come in with a turban on his head. I mean, he'd obviously been, in costume. It's kind of ridiculous for the Turk's court, but anyway.
Yeah, it's like the other day I was watching television and someone demanded that I help sort out their printer. Now, admittedly, I didn't have to travel from the other side of the globe, but I was busy. That was annoying, and I feel empathy with Mephistopheles. I really do. Okay, I really like this particular subplot, and I kind of feel that it's a shame that it doesn't go any further and that more isn't done with these. There are some more comedy business that sort of connects to this, but not in anywhere near as expanded a universe as I feel it should be. That's my only gripe. Alan?
I think the worry with a production is if you've got two people playing those two characters, they could steal an awful lot of the show with all sorts of additional business if they thought they could get away with it.
And sole purpose of visit, I don't have a problem with that at all. They've just got to be funny, and it isn't always easy to make this funny. Some of this stuff can fall very flat. Okay, let's go into Act 4. Mephistopheles very helpfully said where Act 4 is going. Again, this act division may be completely artificial and meaningless, but it's generally called Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Martino and Frederick at several doors. Do we have a Martino? Is our Martino ready? Or shall I read in briefly? Can we get a... I think we don't have a Martino. If Martino appears, just take over the words from me. Otherwise, what ho, officers, gentlemen! Hie to the presence to attend the Emperor. Good Frederick, see the rooms be voided straight. His Majesty is coming to the hall. Go back and see the state in readiness.
Bruno, our elected vote, but on a few weeks back came post from Rome. Will not his grace consort the Emperor?
Oh, yes, and with him comes the German conjurer, the learned Faustus, fame of Wittenberg, the wonder of the world for magic art, and he attends to show great Carolus the race of all his stout progenitors, and bring in presence of his Majesty the royal shapes and perfect semblances of Alexander and his beauteous paramour.
Where's Benvolio?
Fast asleep, I warrant you. He took his rouse with stoops of Rhenish wine, so kindly yesternight to Bruno's health, that all this day the sluggard keeps his bed.
See, See, his window's open. We'll call to him.
What ho, Benvolio! At which Benvolio enters above at the window.
What a devil ail you two?
Speak softly, sir, lest the devil hear you, for Faustus at the court is late arrived, and at his heels 1,000 furies wait to accomplish whatsoe'er the doctor please.
What of this?
Come, leave thy chamber first, and thou shalt see this conjurer perform such rare exploits before the Pope and Royal Emperor as never yet was seen in Germany.
Has not the Pope enough of conjuring yet? He was upon the devil's back late enough, and if he be so far in love with him, I would he would post with him to Rome again.
Speak. Wilt thou come and see this sport?
Not I.
Wilt thou stand in thy window and see it then?
Aye, and I fall not asleep in the meantime.
The Emperor is at hand, who comes to see what wonders by black spells may compassed be.
Well, go you to attend the Emperor. I am content for this once to thrust my head out of a window. For they say, if a man be drunk overnight, the devil cannot hurt him in the morning. If that be true, I have a charm in my head will control him as well as the conjurer, I warrant you.
And here we return to where the A text and the B text vaguely agree, but we've been mostly doing B text stuff there. We can infer that we have the exit of Frederick and Martino. Benvolio keeps looking out his window. There is a Senate. Enter Charles, the German Emperor, Bruno, previously seen, Duke of Saxony, Faustus, Mephistophilis, Frederick and Martino presumably re-enter in a bit. And attendants, Emperor sits.
Wonder of men, renowned magician, thrice learned Faustus, welcome to our court. This deed of thine in setting Bruno free from his and our professed enemy shall add more excellence unto thine art than if by powerful necromantic spells thou couldst command the world's obedience. Forever be beloved of Karoulla. And if this Bruno thou hast late redeemed, in peace possess the triple diadem, and sit in Peter's chair, despite of chance, thou shalt be famous through all Italy, and honoured of the German Emperor.
These gracious words, most royal Karoulla, shall make poor Faustus to his utmost power both love and serve the German Emperor, and lay his life at holy Bruno's feet, for proof whereof, if so your grace be pleased, the doctor stands prepared by power of art to cast his magic charms that shall pierce through the ebon gates of ever-burning hell, and hale the stubborn furies from their caves to compass whoe'er your grace commands.
Lord, he speaks terribly. But for all that, I do not greatly believe him. He looks as like a conjurer as the Pope to a costermonger.
Then, Faustus, as thou late didst promise us, we would behold that famous conqueror, great Alexander, and his paramour, in their true shapes and state majestical, that we may wonder at their excellence.
Your Majesty shall see them presently. Mephistophilis away, and with the solemn noise of trumpet sound, present before his royal emperor, great Alexander and his beauteous paramour.
Faustus, I will.
Exit Mephistophilis.
Well, Master Doctor, if your devils come not away quickly, you shall have me asleep presently. Zounds, I could eat myself for anger to think I've been such an ass all this while to stand gaping after the devil's governor and can see nothing.
I'll make you feel something anon, if my art fail me not. My lord, I must forsworn your majesty that my spirits present the royal shapes of Alexander and his paramour. Your grace demand no question of the king, but in dumb silence let them come and go.
Be it as Faustus please, we are content.
Aye, and I'm content too. And now bring Alexander and his paramour before the emperor. I'll be Actea and turn myself into a stag.
And I'll play Diana and send you the horns presently.
And we have another Senate, and enter at one door Emperor Alexander, and at other Darius. They meet. Darius is thrown down. Alexander kills him, takes off his crown, and offering to go out, his paramour meets him. He embraceth her, and sets Darius' crown upon her head, and coming back, both salute the emperor, who, leaving his state, offers to embrace them, which Faustus, seeing, suddenly stays him. Then trumpet cease and music sounds.
My gracious lord, you do forget yourself, but these are shadows, not substantial.
Oh, pardon me. My thoughts are so ravished with sight of this renowned emperor that in mine arms I would have compassed him. But, Faustus, since I may not speak to them to satisfy my longing thoughts at full, let me this tell thee. I have heard it said that this fair lady, while she lived on earth, had on her neck a little wart or mole. How may I prove that saying to be true?
Your Majesty may boldly go and see.
Faustus, I see it plain, and in this sight thou better pleasest me than if I'd gained another monarchy.
Away, be gone.
And the show exits.
See, my gracious lord, what strange beast is yon that thrusts his head out at window?
Oh, wondrous sight! See, Duke of Saxony, two spreading horns most strangely fastened upon the head of young Benvolio.
I might not have given out a Saxony. What, is he asleep or dead?
He sleeps, my lord, but dreams not of his horns.
Oh, the sport is excellent. We'll call and wake him. What ho, Benvolio!
A plague upon you. Let me sleep a while.
I blame thee not to sleep much, having such a head of thine own.
Oh, look up, Benvolio. 'Tis the Emperor calls.
The Emperor? Where? Oh, zoons. My head.
Nay, and thy horns hold. 'Tis no matter for thy head, for that's armed sufficiently.
Why, how, Sir Knight? What, hanged by the horns? This is most horrible. Fie, pulling your head for shame. Let all the world not wonder at you.
Zoons, Doctor, this is your villainy.
Oh, I say not so, sir. The doctor has no skill, no art, no cunning to present these lords or to bring before his royal emperor. That mighty monarch, warlike Alexander, if Faustus do it, you are straight resolved in bold Acton shape to turn a stag. And therefore, my lord, so please your majesty, I'll raise a kennel of hounds, shall hunt him so that all his footmen shall scarce prevail to keep his carcass from the bloody fangs. Ho, Bellymoth, Aragon, Astaroth.
Hold! Zoons, he'll raise up a kennel of devils, I think not. Good, my lord, entreat for me. As blood, I'm never able to endure these torments.
Then, good Master Doctor, let me entreat you to remove his horns. He has done penance now sufficiently.
My gracious lord, not so much for injury done to me, as to delight your majesty with some mirth. Our Faustus just requited this injurious knight, which being all I desire, I am content to remove his horns. Mephistophilis, transform him.
And the horns are removed.
And therefore, here, sir, look you to speak well of scholars.
Speak well of ye, splud, and scholars be such cuckold makers to clap horns on honest men's heads of this order. I'll ne'er trust smooth faces and small ruffs more. An I not be revenged for this, would I might be turned to a gaping oyster and drink nothing but salt water.
And Benvolio exits.
Come, Faustus, while the emperor lives, in recompense of this thy high desert, thou shalt command the state of Germany, and live beloved of mighty Carolus.
And they exit. Okay, there's lots of stuff going on here. Obviously, all the Bruno stuff isn't in the A-text because the A-text doesn't do Bruno. So there's lots of bits flitting back and forth. But we definitely have certainly a knight who gets punished, and we've got the whole thing about this dumb show of Alexander is at least nodded at. It's considerably more complicated than the A-text. The A-text is just, here's a paramour. Has they got a wart? Yes, they have. Lovely. And have they got a mole? And that again, all that stuff comes out of the source book. Especially this detail of, don't go and touch the spirits. You can't. They're not real. They're just images. And in the book, actually, what I find really interesting is that he sort of explains, look, these aren't actually images of them. These are demons who met them back in the past, who remember what they look like, so they're just performing them. So it's like this is demon cosplay in the source book, and so you can't interact with them because they're just sort of spirit projections that spirits are conjuring. And it's sort of given a lot more detail. But all of the incidents there are really in that little bit and pieces. So yeah, lots of bits and bobs going on there. Sarah.
Yeah, once again, I'm finding this version more satisfying. And I think it's probably because the Bruno backstory has already been set up. There's a reason. There's a reason for the Emperor to be like, "Ooh, okay, yes, you've done this favor for me, so now I'm going to show favor to you." And it just kind of, and also the Emperor seems to be less of a symbolic character and more of a real person in this version, and I like the fact that the conjuring is a little bit more detailed. I don't know. I mean, it's a long time since I read the A version, but then that's the version I kind of knew previously, and it's always seemed to me like this second half is just quite perfunctory. It's like, oh, so he's doing this, and then he's doing that, and he's meeting these people, and he's meeting that people, and it's all like kind of. It's almost like shadow play. They're all puppets, just like, and he sort of on markers in his journey. Whereas here, I feel like these are real people, and these are events that are actually grounded in something, in actual proper plot.
And there's lots of sort of inferred and questionable stage directions as well that's going on here. Does he actually conjure any demons to torment Benvolio, or does he just once he's put the horns on his head just go wiggly wiggly woo, and he's going, no, don't attack me? Because it's interesting. I'm looking at an edition that says that he's actually tormented literally by demons at that point. And that's what the editor inferred. But I'm not actually sure that when Benvolio's has this Belimoth, Anestorov, etc., conjured at him, whether they actually enter at that point or not, or whether he's just going, leave me alone. There's an interesting ambiguity. I'm not sure where to leap with that one. Certainly production. That's a production choice that needs to be made. Lois.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that really, but it looks to me more like a threat. I mean, I could conjure up all these dogs to chase you, but in the end I won't, because I'm told someone asks me politely not to.
But budgetary reasons.
Yes, but of course, if you wanted to make a big spectacle of it, you could do it.
Yeah, and of course, again, it's this thing. Mephistophilis comes on, screwing the horns in. So and taking them off again. So there's fun to be had there. And it's, don't insult magicians. They are quick to anger. I think technically the line is wizards, but never mind. So let us move on, because this plot line is not done with. And I say, this version is much more expansive on this whole back and forth between them. Benvolio, who I think in the A-text is just knight, and he just gets, it's a very fleeting incident with very little comeback. Again, is following the sort of full sway of things. Act 4, Scene 2, enter Benvolio, Martino, Frederick, and soldiers.
Of course, I forgot to unmute myself. Nay, sweet Benvolio, let us sway thy thoughts from this attempt against the conjurer.
Away, you love me not to urge me thus. Shall I let slip so great an injury, when every servile groom jests at my wrongs, and in their rustic gambols proudly say, Benvolio's head was graced with horns today? Oh, may these eyelids never close again, but till with my sword I have the conjurer slain. If you will aid me in this enterprise, then draw your weapons and be resolute. If not, depart. Here will Benvolio die, but Faustus' death shall quit my infamy.
Nay, we will stay with thee, betide what may, and kill that doctor if he come this way.
Then, gentle Frederick, hie thee to the grove, and place our servants and our followers close in an ambush there behind the trees. By this I know the conjurer is near. I saw him kneel and kiss the emperor's hand, and take his leave, laden with rich rewards. Then, soldiers, bravely fight. If Faustus die, take you the wealth, leave us the victory.
Come, soldiers, follow me unto the grove. Who kills him shall have gold and endless love.
Exit Frederick with soldiers.
My heart, my head is lighter than it was by the horns, but yet my heart's more ponderous than my head, and pants until I see that conjurer dead.
Where shall we place ourselves, Benvolio?
Here will we stay to bide the first assault. Oh, were that damned hellhound but in place, thou soon shouldst see me quit my foul disgrace.
Enter Frederick.
Conjurer is at hand, and all alone comes walking in his gown. Ready then, and strike the peasant down.
Mine be that honour then. Now, sword, strike home. For horns he gave, I'll have his head anon.
See, he comes.
Enter Faustus with a false head.
No words, this blow ends all. Hell take his soul, his body thus must fall.
And he stabs at Faustus.
Groan you, Master Doctor?
Break may his heart with groans. Dear Frederick, see, thus will I end his griefs immediately.
Strike with a willing hand.
Benvolio strikes off Faustus's head.
His head is off.
The devil's dead. The Furies now may laugh.
This, that stern aspect, that awful frown, made the grim monarch of infernal spirits tremble and quake at his commanding charms.
Was this that damned head whose art conspired Benvolio's shame before the emperor?
Aye, that's the head, and there the body lies, justly rewarded for his villainies.
Come, let's devise how we may add more shame to the black scandal of his hated name.
First, on his head, in quittance of my wrongs, I'll nail huge forked horns, and let them hang within the window where he yoked me first, that all the world may see my just revenge.
What use shall we put his beard to?
I will sell it to a chimney sweeper. It will wear out 10 birchen brooms, I warrant you.
What shall his eyes do?
I will pull out his eyes, and they shall serve for buttons to his lips, to keep his tongue from catching cold.
An excellent policy. Now, sirs, having divided him, what shall the body do?
In which response to which, Faustus gets up.
Zones, the devil's alive again.
Give him his head, for God's sake!
Nay, keep it. Faustus will have heads and hands, aye, all your hearts to recompense this deed. Know not, traitors, I was limited for 24 years to breathe on earth, and you cut my body with your swords, or hewed this flesh and bones as small as sand. Yet in a minute I had my spirit returned, and I had breathed a man made free from harm. But where do I dally my revenge? Astaroth, Belimorph, Mephistophilis.
Enter Mephistophilis and other demons.
Go, horse! These traitors on your fiery backs, and mount aloft them with us, high as heaven. Thence pitch them headlong to the lowest hell. Yet stay. The world shall see their misery, and hell shall after their plague their treachery. Go, Bellamoth, and take this caitiff hence, and hurl him into some lake or mud and dirt. And take this other, and drag him through the woods amongst the pricking thorns and sharpest briars, whilst, with my gentle Mephistophilis, this traitor into some steeping rock that, rolling down, may break the villain's bones, as he intended to dismember me. Fly hence, dispatch my charge immediately.
Yes, gentle Faustus, save our lives.
Away!
You must needs go that the devil drives.
And there exit the spirits with the various knights. Enter the ambushed soldiers.
Come, sirs, prepare yourselves in readiness. Make haste to help these noble gentlemen. I heard them parley with the conjurer.
See where he comes. Dispatch and kill the slave.
What's here? An ambush to betray my life? Then, Faustus, try thy skill. Base peasants, stand! Below these trees remove, at my command, and stay as bulwarks twixt yourself and me, to shield me from your hatred treachery? Yet to encounter this to your weak attempt, behold, an army comes incontinent.
And Faustus strikes the door, and enter a devil playing on a drum. After him another bearing an ensign, and diverse with weapons. Mephistophilis with fireworks. They set upon the soldiers and drive them out, and exeunt. End scene. Okay, a lot of fun stuff going on there. Okay, basic stagecraft issue here, of course, is you need to be plausibly wearing a fake head for... I mean, it's not a vast number, but there is a span when that needs to look plausible and work. I have seen this staged. I have never seen this scene staged successfully in terms of that aspect. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's really hard to do the invisible man trick and look plausible for that moment, for the way the head drops off. But I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just saying it's possibly one of the reasons I moved against the B-text, because I just went, I'm not doing this bit. However much I like bits of it, I'm not sure I can do it well, and therefore I distrust it. Anyway, Sarah, then Lois.
They must have had a way of doing it, though. I mean, I'm just thinking, why would he put this in the text? Because it makes it like the stagecraft is so difficult. But then he must have had a way of doing it that looks actually
it's
quite...
the invisible man trick. It's the you have sort of fake shoulders up here,
Yeah.
and then you put a head on it. It's just. It never looks convincing in films. And
they must have had a way of doing it on stage, though, that did actually work. Because I mean, you can imagine if
it's
this
not
was
in the
done
A
well,
text, so
well, maybe not then.
maybe that is a record of the scene going no.
Yeah, because you want your audience to just go, "Oh my God, they've killed him," and not go, "Ha ha."
Yeah.
So maybe they couldn't pull it off.
I can't remember whether he gets his head chopped off in the book. I know he definitely has some of the things in the book, but I don't think this is actually necessarily all of the fighting being attacked by knights and the knights being scared off by demons and all the rest of it. That's interesting. Then we get this image of them being carried away on devils' backs, which we have again in earlier plays and in earlier traditions. So. It's really leaning into that sort of morality play and earlier stuff. Lois.
Yeah, I can't actually remember any particular performance of this, but I was just thinking that scholars would wear black gowns and possibly very thick, elaborate ruffs, and you could have something like that with his head peering through it. I mean, he would be peering through it, and then the fake head on top.
Yeah, it probably means for the rest of the play he has to have an incredibly thick ruff. To make that vaguely read. I mean, if it's from the back, I think you could do things. If he's not facing the front, it's sort of okay. Because then also you've got the problem of the fake head has to look convincing, and that's very difficult to do even with a really good budget. Severed heads you can get away with covering it in gore to make it look vaguely plausible, but even then they often don't look vaguely plausible, again, even with modern SFX. Eric?
Well, it depends how closely you want to follow the text. Because, I mean, if you want to be like sort of, you could use sort of shadow puppetry where you've got like sort of, they go behind something and he gets beaten up anyway, and sort of loses his head there, lies very still, and then they're like, oh, what, he's alive? What is going on here? Like, sort of, I mean, obviously I don't know where you'd get like sort of that element in a forest, because obviously they are in a forest, but I mean, it depends how far you want to take it, and then just sort of, light it from the back and then stop lighting it, and then
I mean,
just so it looks
you've only
more
got about
convincing than a head.
You've got 2-3 lines before he's down on his knees, and him going down on his knees is very clearly, let's get him slightly sideways so you don't see his head so much. I mean, it does feel like that, it has been thought out. It's just how effective it is, especially on an outdoor stage in, broad daylight. You can't hide this stuff. Anyway, Lois.
Well, I did wonder whether maybe we're wrong in assuming that it's meant to be terribly convincing. Maybe.
Well, that's true. We are in the comedy sequence, aren't we? That they know, he's going to have a thing with a thing. Yeah.
Because I remember a production where when they did the scene with the goblet, Robin and Dick came on, and the goblet was obviously on a long cord attached somewhere above, and the audience was howling with laughter because you could see which way this was going to go.
Lynn?
Yeah, I mean, you could lean into the fakeness of it, but this would be one occasion when I would tend not to want to do that, because I feel like you want your audience to take the stakes seriously. You want to take the danger of Faustus' soul seriously. The power of the ending we all know is coming, is kind of undermined if you make the special effects too corny, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's the fundamental problem of these two acts is, what do you do about this tonal shift? I mean, it does demonstrate an important point that he is a spirit in effect from the moment he sold his soul. He's not quite fully human, which means he is sort of damned eternal. I mean, there's almost no going back from that point. But you can't kill Faustus until the devil comes through him at the end. And that means that that really does demonstrate how far he's gone by that point. So it could be very dramatic and very serious. Briefly, Alan and Sarah, because we will move on in a moment.
Yeah, I was just wondering. We've had plays of the period, I think, of the original, the Ajax of this, with the brazen head, and I'm just wondering whether there's a variant on that being used.
No, not specifically that prop, because that's a massive metal thing, because you set fire to it and all the rest of it. But certainly the idea, we've certainly got magical plays of the same time which are doing this kind of special effects work, and are interested in doing that special effects work. The demons at the end here, and so it's not, there isn't an additional line on our budget here. Of course, when we're discussing whether we have the demons come on and attacking Benvolio, it doesn't matter if we do, because they've definitely come on now, so we've got them in stock for that earlier moment. We just got to decide whether he actually conjures, because he said their name, and that should be enough actually. Anyway, Sarah.
Yeah, I just following on from Lynn's point. I also think it's worth trying to do this scene even though it's a comedy scene, which, you know, clearly it is, and you'd want to lean into the comedy, but I think it's probably worth trying to make this a murder attempt as realistic as possible. To up the ante for what you were saying, the fact that he can't be killed, you know, he's already damned in that sense, but also because it does actually give you a bit of sympathy for Faustus, which is the other thing I find really missing from the A text. Like, I just find him so damn irritating. Like I that play, you know, it has many good things about it, and I know it's a classic, blah blah, but I've always just been like, oh, for God's sake, this man, he's just such an idiot. Whereas this, you know, the fact that he saved Bruno, the fact that he's like, you know, he's become a victim of jealousy here, effectively, because he's the emperor's new favorite boy and all the rest of it, and that, you know, they are that when they think he's dead and they're talking about the things they're going to do to his body, you know, that is all kind of quite grim. And it's like, I think if you do that with a certain degree of authenticity, it does actually, it doesn't just raise the dramatic stakes, it also raises the character stakes. You know, you start to kind of start to side with Faustus a bit, and like, oh yeah, and so then that will then raise the stakes for later on when he does get damned. You might actually care, whereas every time I've ever seen this play, which I think has always been the A text, I'm always like, yeah, whatever, just take him to hell, I don't care.
I think, yeah, I'm not sure how much of this scene is actually that there are comedy beats built into it, actually. And you're right, that moment when they're all holding onto his head and going, what should we do with this? It's much more Tamburlaine than it is, you know, comedy hijinks that we've had elsewhere. And then when Faustus raises himself up, it's proper, I am a risen monster moment. It is a horror beat rather than a comedy beat. And that whole scene, actually, just quickly skimming back through it, I'm going, actually, no, there isn't much comedy in this at all. The comedy beats are in the earlier scene, and and that was it within the scene. It wasn't even like the audience needs to laugh. It's about the courtiers laughing at these people, that them being shamed. And so actually maybe Act 4 is doing a slightly different job of work to Act 3, which was mostly doing comedy beats, you know, the silliness with the Pope. Whereas here, actually, this is slightly weirder. Not necessarily dark, weirder might be another way of thinking about it as well. Just the weirdness of what's going on here. Very briefly, Eric, and then we'll move on.
Well, also, there's, like, I think the comedy is basically the fact that there are two ambushes, just in case they didn't kill him properly the first time. They wanted to make sure. It just feels a bit like overkill. And obviously, that's the bit where they bring in all the effects and the fireworks.
Yeah, it's
moving
a bit...
trees.
Yeah. It's the demons are entering like an army. They've got drums and things. So it's a proper battle scene. Again, that's quite interesting. Anyway, let's go on. Act 4, Scene 3. Enter at several doors. We have Benvolio, we have Frederick, and we have Martino. They're not in hell. Their heads and faces bloody and besmeared with mud and dirt, all having horns on their heads.
What ho, Benvolio?
Here. What? Frederick? Oh?
Well, me gentle friend, it's Martino.
Dear Frederick, here, half smothered in a lake of mud and dirt, through which the Furies dragged me by the heels.
Martino, see Benvolio's horns again.
Oh, misery, how now, Benvolio?
Oh, defend me, heaven, shall I be haunted still?
Nay, fear not, man. We have no power to kill.
My friends transformed thus, oh, hellish spite, your heads are all set with horns.
You hit it right. 'Tis your own, you mean. Feel on your head.
Zounds, horns again.
Nay, chafe not, man. We are all sped.
What devil attends this damned magician, that spite of spite our wrongs are doubled?
What may we do that we may hide our shames?
If we should follow him to work revenge, he'd join long ass's ears to these huge horns, and make us laughing stocks to all the world.
What shall we then do, dear Benvolio?
I have a castle joining near these woods, and thither we'll repair, and live obscure, till time shall alter these our brutish shapes. Sith black disgrace hath thus eclipsed our fame, we'll rather die with grief than live with shame.
And they exit. So we've got this little coda of, okay, they've just been attacked by demons, and now they've all got horns. And what are they going to do? They're going to live in obscurity in their little castle. And again, is this funny or is this just quite darkly weird? You can push that either way, because it's not like it's a very Midasy asses. They explicitly reference the asses here, so it's following that logic. Bits of this again, sort of coming from the book. I don't think they go into seclusion to live in a castle though. So yeah, and it's like, no, we have been bested, and there's actually no record. They're all gonna have horns forever, which, you know, that's not funny actually anymore. if it's forever, if you undo the horns, then it's funny because it's no harm's being done. But they have just tried to kill him, so horns forever, or at least until he dies, probably. I would have thought the magic will wear off eventually.
Yeah, he says time shall alter these our brutish shapes.
But, you know, that's probably more hope than...
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
No, it doesn't come with a warranty. Eric?
I'm just wondering how they plan to, like, live in the castle, because, like, castles generally don't have a lot of space. I mean, there's the courtyard and stuff, and then, like, you know, if you try to go up into a tower to look out or something, you'd have to go sideways. Just because of the horns, which is not funny.
You mean in the
funny.
sense the doors are quite small and there's a lot of narrow passage? Yeah, I suppose there's that logic. And the thing is, you know, the castle's going to have a lot of staff. You know, castles don't function without a lot of it. So people are going to see. So it's going to have to be, you know, what you'd want to go is more, you know, a little grotto or, you know, something, you know, a little villa.
Yeah, but for noblemen, you can't be expected to live without servants. Yeah, so.
Well, you know, maybe that's part of what they're going to have to get used to. Anyway, that's our big digression. We've now returned to some connection with the atext, with a scene of Act 4, Scene 4. Not exactly the same. Once again, a lot of the comedy business is sort of reworked. There's rewordings, but let's see where we go. Enter Faustus and the horse courser and Mephistophilis.
I beseech your worship, accept these $40.
Friend, thou cannot buy a good horse for such a small price. I have no great need to sell him, but if thou likest him for $10 more, take him, because I see thou hast a good mind to him.
I beseech you, sir, accept of this. I'm a very poor man, and have lost very much of late by horseflesh, and this bargain will set me up again.
Well, I will not stand with thee. Give me the money. Now, sirrah, I must tell you that you may ride him o'er a hedge, o'er a ditch, and spare him not. But do you hear, in any case, ride him not into water.
How, sir? Not into the water? Why, will he not drink of all waters?
Yes, he will drink of all waters, but ride him not into the water, o'er hedge and ditch, or where thou wilt, but not into water. Go bid the hostler deliver him to you, and remember what I say.
I warned you, sir. No joyful day now, made man forever.
And exit horse courser.
Art thou, Faustus, but a man condemned to die? Thy fatal time draws near the end. Despair doth drive distrust into my thoughts. Confound these passions with quiet sleep. Christ did call upon the thief upon the cross, and rest thee, Faustus, quiet in conceit.
He goes to sleep. Enter the horse courser, wet.
Oh, what a cozening doctor was this! I, riding my horse into the water, thinking some mystery had hidden in the horse. I had nothing under me but a little straw, and had much ado to escape drowning. Well, rouse him and make him my $40 again. Ho, Sirrah, Doctor, you cousining scab. Master Doctor, awake and rise and give me my money again, for your horse has turned to a bottle of hay. Master Doctor.
And he pulls off Faustus's leg.
Alas, I am undone. What shall I do? I pulled off his leg.
The villain hath murdered me.
Murder, not murder. Now he has but one leg. I'll outrun him and cast this leg into some ditch road.
And he runs out.
Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Faustus have his leg again, and the horse courser a bundle of hay for his $40.
Enter Wagner.
How now, Wagner? What news with thee?
If it please you, the Duke of Van Holt doth earnestly entreat your company, doth send some of his men to attend you, with provision fit for your journey.
The Duke of Van Bolt's an honourable gentleman, and one of whom I must have no niggard of my cunning. Come away!
And they exit. Okay, again, slight combination of a couple of stories. The sort of later part of the original book gets quite repetitious with body parts being pulled off and stuff like that. But it's this weird mix because you've got him cousining this guy, and the horse courser comes in wet and all the rest of it. But in the middle of it, Faustus is going, "I'm going to die." And yeah, it's quite interesting that juxtaposition there with a very obvious visual gag. I do love the horse courser just enter horse courser wet. I think it's such a simple stage direction that says everything really. It just needs to come in sodden. Technically harder to do in 6 lines than you'd think. Actually, getting wet is not easy to do in a controlled fashion. People don't sodden that quickly. There are ways and means to do that, however. Lois.
Oh yeah, well, I think I know what the convention is on this because it comes up in Eastward Ho, where essentially you just get one part of the clothing and come in with this, wringing it out, and that sort of stands for all your clothes, because it would be just about impossible to soak somebody completely and then expect them to go on stage like that.
It's also, you can have it effectively. You have a separate top that you just swing on and swing off. One of which is looks damp, and you just quickly swish some water in your hair as well. Does an awful lot. Or squidgy wellies, that always works well. And just anyway, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, so far in the last couple of scenes, Faustus isn't so much an actor as a kit of parts.
Yeah. He's losing bits left, right, and centre. Sarah.
Yeah, this has never struck me before. But I think it's because I'm tapping into that kind of a weird, uncanny thing that you were talking about. I was suddenly strongly reminded of there was a film made in the 90s called Death Becomes Her, where these two women take a potion to stop themselves from aging, but it doesn't stop them from actually being injured. So they're walking around with sort of broken legs, and
right, and like one gets a shotgun.
Yes, exactly, and a shotgun holes in them, and the heads on back to front because their necks have been broken. And it's really macabre. Yeah, it's really macabre and absolutely hilarious. And the tone of this is reminding me of it, because it's icky, but it's funny at the same time. And I just think that's actually, that's a really kind of, you can basically do both at the same time. You can make it weird and you can make it macabre, and you can have him, and you can have the stakes of him being damned in the middle of this scene really, really high, and still play the comedy.
Yeah, and then Wagner turns up. It's just like, hi, do you remember me from Act 1? It's like there are little things drawing him back to the world that the play started in. It's like just little reminders that this play has a shape and we're on the downward. direction. Okay, let's continue this. This is where the B text will start drifting again from the A text. Very little of this, pretty much none of this, happens in the A text. So Act 4, Scene 5, enter Robin Dick, the horse courser, and a carter.
Come, me masters, I'll bring you to the best beer in Europe. What, oh, hostess, where be these oars?
Enter Hostess.
Oh, no. What like you? What, my old guests? Welcome.
Sirrah Dick, dost thou know why I stand so mute?
No, Robin, why is't?
I am 18 pence on the score. But say nothing. See if she've forgotten me.
Who's this that stands so solemnly by himself? What, my old guest?
Hostess, how do you? I hope my score stands still.
Why, there's no doubt of that. But methinks you make no haste to wipe it out.
Why, hostess, I say, fetch us some beer.
You shall presently. Look up into the hall there. Oh!
And exit Hostess, and people will probably bring some drinks in a bit.
Come, sirs, what shall we do now till mine hostess comes?
Marry, sir, I'll tell you the bravest ale how a conjurer served me. You know Doctor Faustus?
Aye, a plague take him. Here's someone's have cause to know him. Did he conjure thee too?
I'll tell you how he served me. As I was going to Wittenberg the other day with a load of hay, he met me and asked me what he should give me for as much hay as he could eat. Now, sir, I thinking that a little would serve his turn, bade him take as much as he would for 3 farthings. So he presently gave me my money and fell to eating, and as I am a cursed man, he never left eating till he had ate up all my load of hay.
Oh, monstrous. He had a whole load of hay?
All together now, people.
Monstrous.
Oh, monstrous. Eat
Oh,
a whole load of hay.
monstrous.
Yes, that may be, for I have heard of one that hath ate a load of hogs.
Now, sirs, you shall hear how villainously he served me. I went to him yesterday to buy a horse of him, and he would by no means sell him under $40. So, sir, because I knew him to be such a horse as would run over hedge and ditch and never tire, I gave him his money. So when I had my horse, Doctor Faustus bade me ride him night and day, and spare him no time. But, quoth he, in any case, ride him not into the water. Now, sir, I was thinking the horse had some quality that he would not have me know of. What did I but rid him into a great river? And when I came in just in the midst, my horse vanished away, and I sat straddling upon a bottle of hay.
Oh, brave,
Doctor.
But you shall hear how bravely I served him for it. I went me home to his house, and there I found him asleep. Kept a hallooing and whooping in his ears, but I could not wake him. I, seeing that, took him by the leg, and never rested pulling till I had pulled his leg quite off. Now 'tis at home in mine hostelry.
And has the doctor but one leg then? That's excellent. For one of his devils turned me into the likeness of an ape's face.
Some more drink, hostess?
Hark ye, we'll into another room and drink a while, and then we'll go seek out the doctor.
And they exit. Tavern scene of people comparing notes. It's like, oh, he did this to me. He did this to me. And Robin and Dick, have they been transformed back? I mean, the convention in the book is that basically once you cross a threshold, you're returned to normal. So if you go through a door, you're usually fine. So they may return to their normal state. Though I do like the idea that maybe every so often one of them starts picking fleas, or or starts scratching, and little details like that. Sarah.
Yeah, I also feel I just put this in the chat. I feel that this is missing a comic opportunity here because, I don't want the leg to be at home in his hostry. I want him to actually still have the leg. I want him to be sitting there in the tavern drinking his beer and saying, "You see this leg? This is Faustus's leg. This is
It's over the bar. It's in one of these cases.
Yeah,
you have in fishing country and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That leg just needs to be in this scene.
It's interesting where the whole leg thing fits it from the original book, because they've sort of played around with that a bit, because it's actually a sort of it's a bit of a bet that goes on with this guy about, what can you do with my leg, and the guy goes off with the leg and then he chucks it away, and it's all a bit awkward because it's a bit anti-Semitic, but it's a whole sequence. So I like the fact the playwrights just picked up the leg bit and walked away with that, as it were, rather than the less good stuff. Alan, then Eric.
Yeah, I mean, the one who's been turned into a dog was in problems, but he's all right now.
Thank you, Eric.
I was just going to say that it's a bit like sort of basically fairy tales. I think we've said this when we were reading the actual book, where it's like they tell you not to do the one thing. It's kind of like with Lucifer, or don't sit on the chair or whatever. Not to do the one thing that will
don't
destroy.
drive it through water. It was in the terms and conditions. It did very clearly say it.
And it's like he did ask if, will he drink water? Yeah, it's fine. I mean, just don't drive him into But because he thought that he was smarter than Faustus, he just went ahead and did it.
And if we connect the dots, we could argue that we know where the straw that made the horse came from, because he eats all this straw. Boom, boom. Again, another story that's been lifted. I quite like the way that actually they've tried to sort of conflate some of the stories from the original book and not enact all of them. And I think that's a better way of working as well, of not doing everything. Anyway, Act 4, Scene 6. Enter me. Enter the Duke of Vanholt, his Duchess, Faustus, Mephistophilis, and attendants. Thanks, Master Doctor, for these pleasant sights. Nor know I how sufficiently to recompense your great deserts in erecting that enchanted castle in the air, the sight whereof so delighted me, as nothing in the world could please me more.
I do think myself, my good lord, highly recompensed in that pleaseth your grace to think but well of which Faustus hath performed. But, gracious lady, it may be that you have taken no pleasure in these sights. Therefore, I pray you tell me, what is it the thing that you most desire to have? Be it in the world, it shall be yours. I have heard that great-bellied women do long for things are rare and dainty.
Oh, true, Master Doctor. And, since I find you so kind, I will make known unto you what my heart desires to have, and, were it now summer, as it is January, a dead time of the winter, I would request no better meat than a dish of ripe grapes.
This is but a small matter. Go, Mephistophilis, away.
Exit Mephistophilis, going, I'm a demon, you're getting me to fetch grapes.
Madam, I will do more than this for your content.
Enter Mephistophilis with grapes.
Here now, taste you these. They should be good, for they come from a country far away, I can tell you.
Oh, this makes me wonder more than all the rest, that or at this time of year, when every tree is barren of his fruit, from whence you have these ripe grapes.
Please it your grace, this year is divided into 2 circles over the whole world, so that when it is winter with us, in the country circle it is likewise summer with them, as in India, Sabah, and such other countries that lay far east, where they have fruit twice a year, from whence, by means of a swift spirit that I have, I had these grapes brought, as you see.
And trust me, they are the sweetest grapes that e'er I tasted.
The clowns bounce at the gate within. What rude disturbers have we at the gate? Go pacify their fury, set it ope, and then demand of them what they would have. More knocking at the gate. Call out to talk with Faustus. Oi, how now, masters? What a coil is here? What is the reason you disturb the Duke?
We have no reason for it, therefore a fig for him.
Why, Circe varlets, dare you be so bold?
I hope, sir, we've got wit enough to be more bold than welcome.
Oh, it appears so. Pray be bold elsewhere, and trouble not the Duke. What would they have? Oh, they all cry out to speak with Doctor Faustus.
Aye, and we will speak with him.
Will you, sir? Commit the rascals.
Commit with us? He were as good commit with his father as commit with us.
I do beseech your grace, let them come in. They are good subject for a merriment.
Do as thou wilt, Faustus. I give thee leave.
I thank you, grace.
Enter Robin, Dick, Carter, and Horse Courser.
Why, how now, my good friends? Faith, you are too outrageous. But come near, I procured your pardons. Welcome all.
Nay, sir, we will be welcome for our money, and we will pay for what we take. Why, give us half a dozen of beer here and be hanged.
Nay, hark you. Can you tell me where you are?
Aye, marry can I. We are under heaven.
Aye, sir, but Sir Saucebox, do you know you in what place?
Aye, the house is good enough to drink in. Jones, fill us some beer, or we'll break all the barrels in the house and dash out all your brains with your bottles.
Be not so furious. Come, you shall have beer. My lord beseech you, give me your leave a while. I'll gauge my credit. Will content your grace.
With all my heart, kind doctor. Please thyself. Our servants and our courts at thy command.
I humbly thank your grace. Then fetch some beer.
I married, there spake a doctor indeed, and faith I'll drink a health, thy wooden leg, that word.
My wooden leg? What dost thou mean by that?
Dost hear him, Dick? He has forgot his leg.
Aye, he does not stand much upon that.
No, faith, not much upon a wooden leg.
Good Lord, that flesh and blood should be so frail with your worship. Do not you remember a horse courser you sold an horse to?
Yes, I remember I sold one horse.
And do you remember you bid he should not ride him into the water?
Yes, I do very well remember that.
And do you remember nothing of your leg?
No, in good sooth.
Then I pray you remember your courtesy.
I thank you, sir.
Not so much worth, I pray you. Tell me one thing.
What's that?
Be both your legs bedfellows every night together?
Does that make a colossus of me, that you askest me such questions?
No, truly, sir, I would make nothing of you, but I would fain know that.
Enter hostess with drink.
Then I assure thee, certainly they are.
I thank you, I am fully satisfied.
But wherefore dost thou ask?
For nothing, sir, but methinks you should have a wooden bedfellow of one of them.
Why, do you hear, sir? Did I not pull off one of your legs when you were asleep?
But I have it again, now I am awake. Look here, sir.
Oh, horrible. At the doctor three legs.
Thanks. Do you remember, sir, how you cozened me and ate up my load of...
Faustus, in the middle of each speech, charms them dumb.
Do you remember how you made me wear an ape's...
You horse and conjuring scab, do you remember how you cozened me with a
Have you forgotten me? You think to carry it away with your hay pass and repass. Do you remember the dog's
And exit the clowns.
Who pays for the ale? Here you, Master Doctor. Now you've sent away my guests. I pray, who shall pay me for my...
And awkward moment avoided by silencing and sending her out.
My lord, we are much beholding to this learned gentleman.
So are we, madam, which we will recompense with all the love and kindness that we may. His artful sport drives all sad thoughts away. Exit. And after that demonstration of Jedi mind powers, these are not the dukes and duchesses you are looking for. Most of that is not in the A-text. The only bit is the grapes bit, pretty much, and all the rest with the rustics coming in. I mean, to be honest, the whole thing about the legs goes on rather long. I was going, oh, he's got legs, no legs. Look, he's got legs. Which I suppose it can be very funny, but it's. I think that one needs to really be pitched at fever pitch for that one to really land. But yeah, it is interestingly. I love the way that there's just Mephistophilis is just a food app. It's just going, tapping into my Mephistophilis. I fancy an Indian tonight. There we go. Yeah, let's have this. Let's have some grapes. He's just there to do some home shopping. It's not good to anger your demon. The closer you get to Redemption Day, he's going to be looking on his index and invoices. He's going to come for you. Any thoughts on that little sequence before we go into the closing moments of the play? More silly, that sequence. I felt that was pretty much all, because it's mostly clowns. It's interesting actually how that dances along. Okay, we're going into Act 5 then. Act 5 is much closer to the A-text. There are some significant little shifts, but I'm just going to let us rattle on through most of this probably. Anyway, Act 5, Scene 1. Thunder and lightning. Enter devils with covered dishes. Mephistophilis leads them into Faustus's study. Then enter Wagner.
I think my master means to die shortly. He has made his will and given me his wealth, his house, his goods, and store of gold and plate, beside 2,000 ducats ready coined. I wonder what he means. If death were nigh, he would not frolic thus. He's now at supper with the scholars, where there's such belly cheer as Wagner in his life ne'er saw the like. See where they come, and like the feast is ended.
And exit. Enter Faustus, Mephistophilis, and 2 or 3 scholars.
Master Doctor Faustus, since our conference about fair ladies, which was the beautifulest in all the world, we have determined with ourselves that Helen of Greece was the admirablest lady that ever lived. Therefore, Master Doctor, if you will do us so much favor as to let us see this peerless dame of Greece, whom all the world admires for majesty, we should think ourselves much beholding unto you.
Gentlemen, for that I know that your friendship is unfeigned. It is not Faustus' custom to deny the just request of those that wish him well. You shall behold that peerless dame of Greece, no otherwise for pomp or majesty than when Sir Paris crossed the seas with her and brought her the spoils to rich Dardania. Be silent then, for danger is in his words.
And yes, with that warning of keep silent, otherwise you'll disturb the magic, music sounds. Mephistophilis brings in Helen. She passeth over the stage.
Was this fair Helen, whose admired worth made Greece, with 10 years' war, afflict poor Troy?
Too simple is my wit to tell her worth, whom all the world admires for majesty.
Now we have seen the pride of nature's work, we'll take our leaves, and for this blessed sight, happy and blessed be Faustus evermore.
Gentlemen, farewell. The same wish I to you.
Exit scholars. Enter an old man.
Oh, gentle Faustus, leave this damned art, this magic that will charm thy soul to hell, and quite bereave thee of salvation. Though thou hast now offended like a man, do not persevere in it like a devil. Yet thou hast an amiable soul, if sin by custom grow not into nature. Then, Faustus, will repentance come too late? Then thou art banished from the sight of heaven. No mortal can express the pains of hell. It may be this my exhortation seems harsh and all unpleasant. Let it not. For, gentle son, I speak it not in wrath or envy of thee, but in tender love and pity of thy future misery. And so have hope that this my kind rebuke, checking thy body, may amend thy soul.
Where art thou, Faustus? Wretch, what hast thou done? Hell claims his right with a roaring voice, says, Faustus, come, thine hour is almost come. And Faustus now will come to do thee right.
And here Mephistophilis gives him a dagger.
Oh, stay, good Faustus! Stay thy desperate steps! I see an angel hover o'er thy head, and with a vial full of precious grace offers to pour the same into thy soul. Then call for mercy and avoid despair.
Oh, friend, I feel thy words to comfort my distressed soul. Leave me a while to ponder on my sins.
Faustus, I leave thee, but with grief of heart, fearing the enemy of thy hapless soul.
And exit old man.
Cursed Faustus, wretch, what hast thou done? I do repent, and yet I do despair. Hell strives with grace and conquers to my breast. What shall I do to shun the snares of death?
Mephistopheles hasn't entered the correct dimension.
Indeed. Accursed, oh no, thou traitor Faustus, I arrest thy soul for disobedience to my sovereign lord. Revolt, or I'll in piecemeal tear thy flesh.
I do repent. I offended him. Sweet Mephistopheles, entreat thy lord to pardon my unjust presumption, and with my blood again I will confirm the former vow I made to Lucifer.
Do it then, Faustus, with unfeigned heart, lest greater dangers do attend thy dread.
Torment, sweet friend, that base and aged man that did durst dissuade me from thy Lucifer with thy torments that our hell affords.
His faith is great, I cannot touch his soul, but what I may afflict his body with, I will attempt, which is but little worth.
One thing, good servant, let me crave thee to glut the longings of my heart's desire, that I may have unto my paramour the heavenly Helen, which I saw of late, whose sweet embrace may extinguish clean those thoughts that I do dissuade me from my vow, and keep my oath I made to Lucifer.
This, or what else my Faustus shall desire, shall be performed in twinkling of an eye.
And enter Helen passing over the stage between two cupids.
Was this the face that launched 1,000 ships and burnt the topless towers of Ilium? Oh, sweet Helen, make me immortal with a kiss. Her lips suck forth my soul. See where it flies. Come, Helen, come, give me thy soul again, and I will dwell the heaven in these lips. All I do is dross that is not Helen. I will be Paris, and for thy love of thee, instead of Troy shall Wittenberg be sacked, and I will combat with weak Menelaus, and swear the colours on my plumed crest. Yea, I will wound Achilles in the heel, and return to Helen for a kiss. Oh, thou art fairer than the evening air, clad in beauty of 1,000 stars, brighter than thou of flaming Jupiter, when he appeared to hapless Semele, and more lovely than the monarch of the sky in wanton Arethusa's azured arms, and none be thou by my paramour.
And exit. The A-texter has a return to the old man who's sort of going, oh, there's some devils. They're quite annoying. Thank goodness I'm so good, otherwise they would hurt more. They're a little tweaky differences there, but it's leaning into all this sort of earlier morality play stuff. The bit when he goes, he's got the dagger, he's going to, we've had the despair moment and the sudden turnaround of don't do it in plays before. So it's you do get the impression, and that's not really. I mean, there's an awful lot in the book of him going, "Oh God, if only I hadn't done it," but he doesn't. I don't think he ever tries to do himself in at any particular point. So it sort of works on that level. Any little thoughts before we carry on, Lois?
Yeah, it's odd that the old man bit isn't really finished off. I mean, I think there is debate about what happens to the old man, whether the devils do get him, which would seem unlikely given that he's so virtuous, or whether he simply walks off and or says Shazam or something and everybody falls back. But anyway, it seems odd not to do something with him here.
Yes, because the A-text has, he comes back on, "Accursed Faustus, miserable man, that from thy soul excludes the grace of heaven and flies the throne of his triumphal seat," which may or may not reuse bits and pieces from elsewhere. "Satan begins to sift me with his pride, as in this furnace God shall try my faith. My faith, vile hell, shall triumph over thee. Ambition's fiend, see how the heaven smiles at your repulse and laughs your state to scorn. Hence hell, for hence I fly unto my God." So, I mean, they're not going to get his soul, but it is debatable whether they get his body in the A-text.
Yeah. They might have lowered something down, and he might actually have been lifted up to fly to my God. Who knows? Yeah.
Especially as we have, "I fly unto my God" is a line that may have some resonance later on that we shall see. Okay. So let us crack on with another little bit of detail that we don't get in the A-text, because, we always like a bit of a demon scramble. Act 5, Scene 2, thunder. All of this thunder. There's none of this thunder is in the A-text. The bit when Wagner comes on earlier, there's and we had all of that stuff of thunder, lightning. The devil brings in the dinner for him and the servants, and it's like, and the scholars, it's like none of that's in the A-text. They're just having a chat. Anyway, thunder, enter Lucifer, Belzebub, and Mephistophilis.
Thus, from infernal dis do we ascend to view the subjects of our monarchy, to those souls which sin seals the black sons of hell, amongst which, as chief Hostess, we come to thee. Bring with us lasting damnation to wait upon thy soul. The time is come which makes it forfeit.
And this gloomy night here in this room will wretched Faustus be.
And here we'll stay to mark him how he doth demean himself.
How should he but in desperate lunacy? Fond worldling, now his heart blood dries with grief, his conscience kills it, and his laboring brain begets a world of idle fantasies to overreach the devil, but all in vain. His store of pleasures must be sauced with pain. He and his servant Wagner are at hand. Both come from drawing Faustus' latest will. See where they come.
Enter Faustus and Wagner as we're almost returning to the A-text.
"Say, Wagner, thou hast perused my will. How dost thou like it?"
So wondrous well, that in all humble duty I do yield my life and lasting service for your love.
"Gramercy, Wagner."
Enter scholars.
"Welcome, gentlemen."
Exit Wagner.
And now, worthy Faustus, methinks your looks are changed.
"Oh, gentlemen."
What ails Faustus?
"Ah, my sweet chamber fellow, had I lived with thee, then I have lived still. But now I must die eternally. Look, sirs, comes he not?
Ah, my dear Faustus, what imports this fear?
Is all our pleasure turned to melancholy?
He is not well with being over solitary.
If it be so, we'll have physicians, and Faustus shall be cured.
'Tis but a surfeit, sir, fear nothing.
A surfeit of deadly sin that have damned my body and soul.
Yet Faustus, look up to heaven, and remember, mercy is infinite.
But Faustus' offence can ne'er be pardoned. The serpent that tempted Eve may be saved, but not Faustus. Oh, gentlemen, hear me with patience and tremble not at my speeches. Though my heart pant and quiver to remember that I have been a student here these 30 years, oh, I would ne'er see Wittenberg, never read book. And what wonders I have done, all Germany can witness, yea, all the world, but for Faustus hath lost both Germany and the world, yea, and heaven itself, heaven, the seat of God, the throne of the blessed, the kingdom of joy, and must remain in hell for ever. Hell, oh, hell for ever. Sweet friends, what shall become of Faustus being in hell for ever?
Yet Faustus call on God.
Oh God, whom Faustus hath abjured, on God who Faustus hath blasphemed. On my God I would weep, but the devils draw in my tears, gush forth blood instead of tears, and yea, the life and soul. Oh, he stays my tongue. I would lift up with my hands, but see, they hold him. They hold him.
Who,
Faustus?
Ooh, Faustus.
Why, Lucifer and Mephistophilis. Oh, gentlemen, I gave them my soul for my cunning.
Oh,
Oh,
God
forbid.
God forbid indeed. Faustus hath done. For in mere and vain we pleasure for and 20 years that Faustus hath lost eternal joy and felicity. I write them a bill, I write my own blood, date is expired, and this is the time, and he will fetch me.
Why did not Faustus tell us of this before, that divines might have prayed for thee?
Oft I have thought I had done so, but the devil threatened to tear me into pieces, and I named God to fetch my body and soul, and I gave ear to divinity, and now it's too late, gentlemen. Away, lest you perish with me.
Oh, what may we do to save Faustus?
Talk not to me, but save your speeches and depart.
God will strengthen me. I will stay with Faustus.
Tempt not God, sweet friend, but let us into the next room and pray for him.
I pray for me, and what noise soe'er you hear, come not into me, for nothing can rescue me.
Pray thou, and we will pray that God may have mercy on thee.
Gentlemen, farewell until I live until morning. I'll visit you. If not, Faustus is gone to hell.
Faustus, farewell.
Exeunt,
Faustus, farewell.
scholars, and also any confluence with the A text. We're on our own again.
Ay, Faustus, now thou hast no hope of heaven. Therefore despair, think only of hell, for that must be thy mansion, there to dwell.
Oh, thou bewitched fiend! 'Twas thy temptation that robbed me of eternal happiness.
I do confess it, Faustus, and rejoice. 'Twas I that, when thou wert in the way to heaven, dammed up thy passage. When thou tookst the book to view the scriptures, then I turned the leaves and led thine eye. What? Weepest thou? 'Tis too late. Despair. Farewell. Fools that will laugh on earth must weep in hell.
Exit Mephistophilis. Enter good angel and bad angel at several doors.
Oh, Faustus, if thou hadst given ear to me, innumerable joys had followed thee, but thou didst love the world.
Gave ear to me, and now must taste hell pains perpetually.
Oh, what will all thy riches, pleasures, pomps avail thee now?
Nothing, but vex thee more to want in hell that had on earth such store.
Oh, thou hast lost celestial happiness. Sorry, I have to drop out halfway through the... Yeah.
Oh, we have lost. Oh, thou hast lost celestial happiness, pleasures, unspeakable bliss without end. Hadst thou affected sweet divinity, hell or the devil had had no power on thee. Hadst thou kept on that way, Faustus, behold. There's a descending throne, people. There's music. Ooh. In what resplendent glory thou hadst sit in yonder throne, like those bright shining saints, and triumphed over hell, that hast thou lost. And now, poor soul, must thy good angel leave thee. The jaws of hell are open to receive thee. Exit, good angel, as the throne ascends, and hell is discovered.
Now, Faustus, let thine eyes with horror stare into that vast perpetual torture house. There are the Furies tossing damned souls on burning forks. There, bodies boil in lead. There, alive quarters broiling on the coals that ne'er can die. This ever-burning chair is for our tortured souls to rest them in. These that are fed with sops of flaming fire were gluttons and loved only delicates, and laughed to see the poor starve at their gates. But yet all these are enough. Thou shalt see 10,000 tortures that more horrid be.
We lost sound on Faustus there. We did not hear you, even though you are unmuted.
Oh, I have seen enough to torture me.
Nay, thou must feel them, taste the smart of all. He that loves pleasure must for pleasure fall. And so I leave thee, Faustus, till anon. Then wilt thou tumble in confusion.
And exit bad angel. We can infer that hell I don't know if hell disappears or not. That's an inferred stage direction. We return to agreement roughly with the A text as the clock strikes 11.
Oh, Faustus, now hast thou but one bare hour to live, and thou must be damned perpetually. Stand still, you air-moving spheres of heaven. What time may cease, and midnight never come. Fair nature's eye, rise, rise again, and make perpetual day, or let this hour be but a year, or a month, a week, a natural day, that Faustus may repent and save his soul. Oh, Lent, carite, noctis equi. Stars move still. Time runs, the clock will strike. Devil will come, and Faustus will be damned. Oh, leap up to heaven. Who pours me down? See where Christ's blood streamed the firmament. One drop of blood will save me. Oh, my Christ, rend not my heart for naming of my Christ. Yet I will call on him. Oh, spare me, Lucifer! Where is it? Where is it now? 'Tis gone, and I see the threatening arm, an angry brow. Mountains and hills, come and fall on me and hide me from the wrath of heaven. No! I will headlong run into earth, gape earth. Oh no, I will not harbour thee. Ye stars that reign on my nativity, whose influence hath allotted in death and hell, now draw up Faustus like a foggy mist into the entrails of the labouring clouds, which thou say vomit forth into the air. My limbs may issue your smoky mouths, and let my soul mount and descend to heaven.
The watch strikes the half hour.
The half hour is past, will soon be past anon. Oh, if my soul must suffer for my sin, imposed at the end of my incessant pain. Oh, let Faustus live in a hell of 1,000 years. No end to the limit in damned souls, wert thou not a creature wanting soul? Or were there this immortal that has last? Pythagoras, Mephistophilis, were that true? This soul should fly from me, and I be changed into some brutish beast, or beasts are happy, for when they die, they are souls that are dissolved in the elements, but mine must still live to be plagued in hell. Cursed be the parents that endangered me. No, Faustus, curse thyself. Lucifer hath deprived thee of the joys of heaven.
The clock strikes 12.
Oh, it strikes. It strikes. Now, body, turn to air. O Lucifer will bear thee quick to hell. A soul be changed into small water drops and fall into the sea, ne'er to be found.
Thunder, enter devils.
Oh, mercy, heaven, look not so fierce on me. Adders and serpents, let me breathe a while. Ugly hell, gape it not. Come not, Lucifer. I'll burn my books. Oh, Mephistophilis.
And exeunt. Act 5, Scene 3. Enter scholars. Scholars muted.
Come, gentlemen, let us go visit Faustus, for such a dreadful night was never seen since first the world's creation did begin. Such fearful shrieks and cries were never heard. Pray heaven the doctor hath escaped the danger.
No, help us, heaven. See, here are Faustus' limbs all torn asunder by the hand of death.
The devils whom Faustus served have torn him thus. For 'twixt the hours of 12 and 1, methought I heard him shriek and call aloud for help, at which self time the house seemed all on fire with dreadful horror of these damned fiends.
Well, gentlemen, though Faustus' end be such as every Christian heart laments to think on, yet for he was a scholar once admired for wondrous knowledge in our German school, we'll give his mangled limbs due burial, and all the students, clothed in mourning black, shall wait upon his heavy funeral.
They exit. We have the chorus for the epilogue.
Cut is the branch that might have grown full straight, and burned is Apollo's laurel bough that sometime grew within this learned man. Faustus is gone. Regard his hellish fall, whose fiendful fortune may exhort the wise only to wonder at unlawful things, whose deepness doth entice such forward wits to practice more than heavenly power permits.
And exit. So the A-text doesn't have the first and second and third scholars return in that little final scene, so we don't get any of the. It's basically the play just sort of ends with being chased away by demons, and then goes straight to the chorus. And that very much is that scene there is again very much riffing on the book, where the scholars are hearing all the noises in the other room, and then they find his body scattered on a dung heap. Actually, but they just find all the carnage left behind, and the blood, and the bits of brains and entrails and stuff everywhere. It's really grim actually in the book. So we have this set piece moment again. That's in the A-text as well. This waiting for the hour to pass in this sort of accelerated time using the clock chimes. It's the same, pretty much exactly the same in both versions because it's really good, and it echoes a speech in Every Man as well, where Every Man sort of takes a moment to go, "I'm going to die now," and there's nice little parallels there. But all of the stuff with the good angel and the bad angel, who we haven't seen since Act 1, Act 2-ish, come back and do all their stuff, and the thrones and the appearance of hell. The A-text is much more claustrophobic in a sense, whereas this is stuff coming out from everywhere, and let's really rub it in as well, because Mephistophilis is on stage just going na 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 na, and he's brought his line manager in as well. Lucifer's there to just keep, but they're always there. And in the B version, Lucifer, etc., all these demons are constantly wandering around. They're always in the background. For much of Act 1 and Act 2, they're about. In much of Act 5, they're about, and it's just like they don't leave, and that's really interesting, actually. Sarah.
Yes, I really love this version a lot more. I love the framing that you get of that fantastic final speech by Faustus. You have the bad angel at the beginning beforehand setting it up, and then you have the scholars afterwards providing like the human witness to the story. I just think that topping and tailing of that speech just, it gives it a framework, and it's a great speech regardless, but it just makes it more powerful. And the thing with all the demons being there, it just occurred to me, like, I don't know, I mean, I've heard that speech a few times now, but just today for the first time I was taken back to Mephistophilis' line, this is hell, nor am I out of it. And it just occurred to me that really that speech is Faustus's hell. Being there, waiting, knowing that it's coming, and the terror that is giving him, that's his hell. He doesn't need to be dragged off. And the fact that all the demons are around, and like they could like literally be all standing around looking at him, not actually doing anything, but just standing there like, oh yeah, this is it then.
Because it's a sort of
waiting.
It's a
the
sort
waiting is the agony. Yeah,
it's this sort of inverted Garden of Gethsemane moment, isn't it? It's like he's waiting there, and except here he's actively trying to, oh, can I go up to heaven? He doesn't make, all he has to do is actually take the thing. I'm sort of actually shifting a bit, because actually I think this is where I'm starting to pick and choose. I actually quite like that he's left by the scholars and then he's left alone and it's all internal. I kind of find the good angel, bad angel, Mephistopheles rubbing it in moment slightly takes it actually away. I quite like that he's alone, he's despairing. It's all about him despairing, because that's the lesson, actually. All he has to do is just repent and call on God, and he'd be fine, or at least in theory, depending which version of Christianity you're going by. And then the demons come at the end. And there's something actually quite powerful about that. But then I'd pick and choose, because I'd still have the scholars come back on at the end. Because I think that's a really good scene that is a shame isn't in the A text, actually, because, you've just had the scholars there 2 minutes ago. It's fine. So I'm starting to sort of be now more picky and choosy, actually, with Act 5, because there's a lot of good material here. But there's also a bit of kind of going, haven't we had this bit before? As well. Which you can workshop in rehearsal and decide what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of, and what's too much and what's too little, and how, if you want to do hell, do hell. This play gives you, all the reason to pull out the pyrotechnics.
There's a hell mouth in the prop inventory, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, presumably it's the, trapdoor and fiery flames and, or whatever you can do there. I mean, it's an interesting question, actually, how you depict that precisely. So, yeah, options. I'm very much more pro B than I used to be, though, I have to say. Certainly Act 3 and Act 4 function a lot better. I think with more material than less. But yeah, okay, we actually have time to do final thoughts from everybody, which is nice. We haven't done that for a while. Okay, final thoughts. It's not necessarily a competition between A and B text. Let's pick and choose if we want to. People can do whatever they like. The A text is still, I think, the best if you've got a small cast. B text is if you want to go full production number on it, and pick and then choose there are some little textual differences that are, it's not that the A text is automatically has less material. It's got less of some material, but it also has more of other. So you can pick and choose. Before we went on camera, Lois actually was mentioning that Sloth's little bit in the A text is actually better than what's in the B text. It's longer and it's funnier, and we can all empathise with it. So there are pluses and minuses that can be got out of this, regardless of how it originally was written or what textual transmission and all that stuff. What you want to do with it is all that matters. I'll go to Lois. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was realizing in that last scene that I know that last speech of Faustus is in the A text by heart, so I kept noticing the differences. And I mean, clearly that law against profanity on the stage had come in, but it seems to have been a law actually against using the name of God at all, even in a context where it's not an oath, because the line, that line, I think, see a threatening arm and ireful brow. In the A text, I think, is, and see where God stretcheth out his arm and bends his ireful brow. But which seems innocuous enough as part of that speech, but it had to be changed apparently to get rid of the name of God.
Yes, you've got a couple of lines. See where Christ's blood streams in the firmament isn't quite the same, and and there's and yes, the where God stretcheth out his arm and bends his ireful brows. I'll leap up to my God. I'll leap up to heaven. That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah, that's right. There's quite a lot of replacing God by heaven, I think, in that text. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that ending done in so many different ways. There was one where I think he got to the end, Mephistophilis. That can be said either as he sees Mephistophilis. I think in one production it was sort of he'd thought of Mephistophilis as a friend all the way through. It's Mephistophilis, then Mephistophilis cuts his throat or something. It's and then there was one where I think he's in a very confined space and he gets to the end and absolutely nothing happens, and then he kind of nods his head, he realizes what's happened, and then draws the curtain, and then the scholars come in and draw it, and he's hanging. There are a lot of things you can do there.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah. If it were me, I would definitely. I don't know either version well enough to tell you what exactly I would do, but nothing stopping you from just conflating them, taking the good bits from each, and making yourself a Dr. Frankenstein Faustus, appropriately enough. I do think there's a danger that the B text illustrates of, like, maybe too much goofy stuff. Yeah, the point is, Faustus has sold his soul to the devil for enormous earthly power, and he ends up frittering away his 24 years on parlor tricks. That's kind of the point. But the litany of parlor tricks can get too long. So you got the grapes, and you got the leg, and you got the head, and you got the horns, and we get it. Yeah, we get it. That he could have done anything, and what he chooses to do is to fool around. And it also occurs to me in this reading, we don't know about the old man, but he never really hurts anybody. I mean, he takes people's money, he disfigures people, but he doesn't have the power of life and death. He can kill people, and he doesn't. So that's interesting that he doesn't have the power, or he doesn't use his power to cause real harm. So I mean, the point is that what he sold his soul for is basically nothing. It's basically nothing.
And even though there are a couple of scenes that sort of vaguely hint at it, it's not as if he's even doing too much in the way of carnal pleasures either. It's not like there's, he's introduced this idea of I'd like a wife at the beginning, and there's the Helen at the end, but actually the text isn't leaning into that side of pleasures. Actually, there's a lot of eating and drinking, but that's about it really.
But yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, and the end of this play and that final speech, it's always worth it. It's always worth sitting through this play, because that is like so amazing. The line, see where Christ's blood streams in the firmament, one drop could save me, half a drop. Like, well, that's what Johnson meant by Marlowe's mighty line. That stuff is amazing. And you're right, Rob. He could save himself if he could just genuinely repent, and he can't. And so the epilogue always strikes me as a little bit like a weak attempt to make a morality play of it. Don't do this, boys and girls. Don't sell your soul to the devil. Don't try to do things God forbids you to do. Because you don't have the morality ending where the mankind character learns his lesson. He doesn't. He can't be sorry. And that's what's so terrifying about it. It's like, what if we're all sort of Faust in our own hearts? That in our hearts we can't be sorry. We're not sorry.
It's because both the A text and the G text don't quite solve that problem of what do you do, how do you demonstrate someone wasting their life. It's really hard to actually demonstrate that in a dramatically interesting way, and that's why the opening really satisfies and the close really satisfies. But and it's known as a beginning, a muddle, and an end. But that comes from the source material to a large degree. You almost actually just want to skirt over the middle and just get straight to the end, because of that difficulty of how do you present that, people sometimes succeed, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. I'd say I do like a lot of it. It's just it's a structural problem, I think, which is it's almost impossible to write your way out of. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm reminded. I saw a performance 30 odd years ago at the Wolsey Theatre in Ipswich, which was billed as being Faustus' Last Supper. And I think, from what I can vaguely remember of it, basically it was Act 5 of this, with most of the preparatory material cut out. It may well be that they used part of the real opening with the pact and then cut the middle bit. Because an awful lot of the stuff in the middle is... Basically, it was reminding me of sort of Loki or Till Eulenspiel, the Merry Prankster type material, which I think was probably around in Middle Europe before this. Because an awful lot of the stuff basically comes down to not particularly good practical jokes.
Yes, I mean the jest book material that's in the original Faust is it's repetitive, and it really doesn't match the rest of the book at all. And it does sort of give him a free pass of, hey, let's do some silly things because it's like, but that's not really where we were. And it's like, this is the problem of adapting a book, and you sometimes adapt in the problems of the book, which is always a bit awkward. I don't know if Eric is with us, if Eric wants to come in for some final thoughts. Otherwise, yes, Eric, any final thoughts?
Hi. I think I like this version more than the other one, although this one is more sort of... Well, I mean, it's hard to take him seriously because he keeps not repenting. And sort of going, yeah, there will be no consequences to my actions whatsoever. It's not like he sort of has moments of introspection and sort of has, well, is this worth it kind of thing, which I guess you could write in if you really wanted to. But
he's got one moment in Act 4 where he goes,
yeah,
oh, I'm gonna die soon, bugger. But yeah, there's a lot of
that's basically
there's a lot of introspection at the beginning and at the end, but there isn't sort of once he's into the fun house of stuff. That's not so much there. Lois, before I go to Sarah.
Oh, well, just that you could put a lot of that in, of course, subtextually, just having him say things and then think a moment about what he really means. I mean, like that bit where he jokes about bell, book, and candle, cursing Faustus to hell, since he knows that's where he's going. I mean, I have seen actors that have made it much more serious and suggested a sort of hysteria behind the comic bits.
Sarah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've always struggled with this play. I've always seen it as a play of like great speeches, and fairly shit as a play, which I realise is some people would throw their hands up in horror, but I've just never gotten on with it. I really got on with this version, and I've never ever had any interest in directing this play. This is how I know, because it's like most plays, I'm like, oh yeah, how would I direct this? I've never had any interest in directing Faustus whatsoever. And now, having read this, I'm like, oh yeah, oh yes, and you could do. And what Lois was just saying about subtext, and I was like, oh yeah. And all of a sudden, it's just like lit a flame in me, and I'm like, oh right, now I get it. Now I get why everybody loves this play. And I've never had that from the A text. And so I'm not, like, I think what I would do if it was me is I would take this as the basis, maybe trim a few things out and then include a few things from the A text, like you say, pick and choose and have the best of both worlds. But I don't know, there's just this version for me, it just spoke to me. The characters were more real, the internal conflict of Faustus was more human. I had more sympathy for him. The stakes were higher, and just the despair of it just really. The A text, it's like I just don't care really. It's like, oh yeah, he's being dragged to hell. That's a really compelling bit, but it's come on top of so much drivel, really, that I'm like, yeah, I don't just get him out of here. Whereas this, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see now. There's a path through this text that would make me really, really care about this character and about his end and about just the nihilism of it all. And so, yeah, I'm super bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I'm so glad that I was here for these sessions.
Eric?
I can't remember if it happens in the A-text where he's torn apart by demons, or is that just sort of implied? I can't remember if that happens.
The demons come.
I think it's just sort of very. It has a different impact when you have the scholars picking up the pieces and trying to go off to burial with them. So it's kind of.
Yeah, in the A text, he's the demons come on at the very end of his long speech, and then they go off, and then the chorus comes on. So you don't actually have him necessarily. That nobody says he's torn to pieces. I mean, it's not to say he can't be, but it's never said.
Yeah, it just has. I think it does have a different impact. Like sort of, even if you don't really care about the character, it's like, whoa, okay, what just happened? Did that just happen in my face? Sort of like, I mean, obviously it wouldn't happen live, but yeah.
I mean, the other thing is to really make that connection between him being torn to pieces and in most of Act 4, he's being torn to pieces. And that's where I'm going to close, because there is a bit of the book that I really wish. There's most of the book I'm sort of not that fussed about anything they cut, but there is one scene that I think I absolutely love, and I found a place to put it in Dumb Show because of the nature. It's during that conversation with the scholars, because in the book it's like he's at the end of his life and he won't let the undergrads leave him alone to stop partying, and it just keeps going, and he's going, no, we're going to keep going during Lent. It's come on, let's keep partying, and it's obsessive. Stay with me while we party stuff. And then there's a bit where they serve a head of something, some animal, I can't remember what animal's head, and the animal's head screams, no, they're murdering me, and the students then tear this apart and eat it. Because they assume it's just some weird, he's doing magical joke pranks. But I think it's his subconscious talking. And I just think that would be something really interesting to put into this closing act. Because I think it's the one scene of the book that I thought was super dramatic, that it's a real shame it's not in the play. And that's also where I'm sort of going. Are there little tweaks and little bits from the book that could be used to inform this? And I think there's actually quite a lot, There's quite a lot of really interesting, the odd line here, the odd word there, that's really quite engaging, because it's actually really quite a good book, actually, a lot of it. Some of it's quite boring, but it's as discussed. It's when it turns into a travelogue and a jest book that it sort of goes off the rails. So yeah, there are images there. There are horror images there, as well as the comedy images, and actually managing to join those dots. Can you make the pulling apart of his body earlier connect with the pulling of a part of his body later on? Can his head and his leg be used later on? And I think that's important if you're going to keep those bits in, rather than just their hijinks. And the horns that he keeps putting on people, they're the horns that Beelzebub and Lucifer are wearing. You know, it's not just cuckold horns. It's actually all of these things overlap. To try and pull together those threads that don't quite turn, don't quite knit together in the way that you want. Lynn.
Yeah, and like you say, the comedy subplot, Robin and Dick. Yeah, how do you make it clear that that's not really a contrast? That's a compare. It's like, oh, look at them, they're silly and they're conjuring demons and they're goofy and they don't know what they're doing, and it's all meaningless. Yes, so is Faustus's story. They're not as different as one might think initially. So yeah, how do you do that? Speaking of pulling it all together, like how do you illustrate that the comedy subplot is not really by way of contrast? It's really a reflection.
Yeah, because we have that very early on. You know, the way Wagner talks to the scholars, and the fact they've stolen his books, and the sort of staggering of these magical forces. And it's just like they never quite take that far enough. They don't quite take that to the next step. And can you thread that in with their later reappearance with the horse courser and everybody else, so that feels unified, which at the present it doesn't quite do. Sarah.
Just talking off the top of my head here, and I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but I'm just wondering if you could replace the scholars at the end with Robin and Dick and Uncle Tom Copley and all, and actually have them be the witnesses to him, his body parts strewn all over the stage. Because if the clowns were then suddenly to receive this kind of slap in the face at the end, where they suddenly weren't being funny anymore, and it wasn't funny, and the joke isn't a joke anymore, like, that could be it could be one way of like tying them back into the main narrative and like giving them a through them taking it back to the audience, like without having to make it a big morality thing. It's like, yeah.
It's also, I wish there was more Wagner, because actually his narrative could be really interesting. He is his heir and executor. Again, from the book, it's almost inferred that part of the book has come from Wagner's documentation of what's gone on. Anyway, we must leave this crime scene. I wouldn't want to try and draw the chalk line round Faustus's body, but I'm sure, I wouldn't want to be the investigating officer on that one. So what happened there? Oh, he was dragged. We heard lots of screams. Did you go in? No.
Not to.
It was demons, did it? Yes, of course it was demons. Get the cuffs. Anyway, so we may return to the B-text at pace in the future. We shall see. It needs actually quite a large car, so it might be a while. So all that remains, thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. A surfeit of deadly sin.